Hello and welcome back to the Wasteland, everybody. Today we're going to be going over the top 10 best perks in Fallout 3, or at least 10 of the strongest perks in Fallout 3. These aren't in any particular order, as strength can vary a whole lot depending on what build you would like to run, but here are 10 very strong ones that you can't really go wrong with most builds. So coming in at number 10, we actually have a very low-leveled perk. Iron Fist is an extremely strong perk that you can just get at level 4. You can take this 3 times. What Iron Fist does is give you 5 more base damage with any sort of unarmed weapon. This includes your bare hands too, so you naturally get a +5 to that, and with each level, it's just a flat +5. So this can go all the way up to +15. 15 extra damage on any sort of unarmed weapon is incredibly strong, let alone more so at the very start of the game, where you likely aren't going to be getting any of the super strong unarmed weapons like Power Fists, Deathclaw Gauntlets, things like that. You're probably just going to have Brass Knuckles or Spike Knuckles, and with 15 more points added to them, that's more damage than what they already have base. It's also incredibly strong if you want to run to any of the DLCs early on and just use your hands, because your hands are just doing so much damage, and it is incredibly strong, especially since you can get perks every level in Fallout 3, so you can get one at level 4, one at level 5, one at level 6, and by that time you could have potentially even maxed out your unarmed skill, and you can just bash through absolutely everything. It's extremely strong if you want to run to the pit. It's probably the strongest build if you want to do that. Maybe not the strongest build in like Operation Anchorage. Can be really strong in like Point Lookout though too. So if you want to run to either of those two DLCs, very, very strong and very low leveled. Even if you're not going with an unarmed build, just having bonus base damage with that makes it a pretty good option, just in case you are going to like a DLC like the Pit where they take away all your gear. In which case, then you're defaulting to a very, very strong fighting style anyway, even if you don't want to go with a full unarmed invested build. Coming in at number 9, we have another very strong unarmed perk. This is Paralyzing Palm. Paralyzing Palm is a level 18 perk, and you need to have 70 unarmed in order to get it. And whenever you have Paralyzing Palm, you have a 30% chance of performing a special VATS Palm Strike that paralyzes an enemy for 30 seconds. 30 seconds is forever in any sort of game. This also has its own little benefit on top of this, though, because if you paralyze an enemy that falls off of an edge, there's a very high chance that they'll just die from the fall damage, which is pretty funny because it can be any level that they fall. It doesn't have to be extremely high up. They can just fall off of a hill onto the floor and potentially die that way, so sometimes you'll just get random kills thanks to Paralyzing Bomb. And this is extremely strong against any of the late game enemies, like the Feral Ghoul Reavers, the Super Mutant Overlords, the Deathclaws. You can just immediately go into your VATS, smack them. VATS is one of the strongest builds in Fallout 3 anyway, just because of how easily you can abuse it with so many builds, let alone with unarmed to build. And if you want to pair this with something like the Deathclaw Gauntlet, where you just ignore armor as well, and you took our previous perk with Iron Fist, you'll kill basically everything in the game really easy, or at least knock it on the ground to where it can't fight you for 30 seconds, and you can just sit there and wail on it while it's on the ground. Coming in at our number 8 spot, we have Finesse. Finesse is a fantastic ability for most builds, with the exception of, like, explosive builds for some odd reason. Explosives never seem to have great crits in the Fallout game. Finesse is a level 10 skill. It doesn't require anything else besides you being level 10, which is fantastic. You can take this once, and this gets you the equivalent of 5% more crit chance. That is pretty good. That's actually really, really nice with certain builds, especially if you want to go with a full crit build, because in Fallout 3, the highest you can get is 18% crit chance. I believe that they're all stacking. And with anything that has a 5 times crit modifier, which is quite a few weapons in Fallout 3, you can have a 90% crit chance with the majority of them. With certain weapons like Deathclaw Gauntlet, you can actually get over 100% crit chance, which makes it even stronger. But on plenty of other builds, this one's extremely strong too. Sniper build can be really strong. Shotgun build, this thing is absolutely insane because shotguns are just straight busted in Fallout 3. At least the combat shotgun, terrible shotgun, and the full-size double barrel, and any sort of shotgun type weapon, so like Polson's revolver or the metal blaster, they'll just carry you through the game. Doesn't matter like what difficulty you're playing on. Once you hit something with a crit, it's probably going to die, or it's going to take a massive chunk of health whenever you do hit. Coming in at number 7, we have Almost Perfect. Almost Perfect is a very strong perk too, but you do have to be at the very end game to get it, because Almost Perfect is a level 30 perk, which is the cap in Fallout 3, assuming you have the Game of the Year edition or at least Broken Steel, and this makes it so all of your special stats are raised to 9, and assuming they're not already 9 or 10. It's not going to drop 10 to 9. This is really, really strong, as you would imagine, because all of your special stats suddenly jump up. You get boost to all of your skills, and if you go out and grab all the bobbleheads that are for the special stats, you can get them all up to 10, which will get you even more stats, and it will make it so any sort of speech checks that you have that are related to the special stats that are still left in the game, you can easily pass thanks to Almost Perfect. Usually you don't need 10 in everything, but it's not bad to have 10 in everything, and it also makes it so certain perks are less useful in Fallout 3, No weakness is not really that great because of almost perfect, and because it's high leveled. If it was low level, then maybe you'd see it be used. Coming in at number 6, we have Ninja. Ninja is a really strong perk too. This is also a level 20 perk, and this requires you to have 80 melee and 80 sneak in order to get. What Ninja does is give you 15% more crit chance for unarmed and melee weapons. And then you also get an additional 25% more sneak damage on top of that. That is really, really strong. Sneak crits are already really good in Fallout because they actually give you double the crit damage. And even though this perk does say that it has 25% bonus crit damage, and it doesn't specifically say to melee and unarmed, it actually is for melee and unarmed, which makes it not as strong as it would be for everything. So it's not as strong on like a shotgun or a sniper build or something. Those builds are already pretty strong regardless. But it makes it so melee and unarmed is even stronger than it already is. And this one's a pretty great perk, even if you don't plan on going with a dedicated melee or unarmed build. It's still not a bad idea to carry around a Deathclaw Gauntlet just for smacking things at close range, or even just hitting like the mid-level enemies that aren't too much of a threat to you and you just don't want to waste ammo on. Coming in at number 5, we have Toughness. Toughness is a fantastic perk. I think it's been a fantastic perk in basically every Fallout game, and it's been basically unchanged in almost all of them. So Toughness requires you to have 5 endurance, and what Toughness does is give you 10% more damage resist permanently. That's pretty good. That's pretty strong. Everybody likes damage resist. It doesn't matter what build you're running, whether you're running a stealth build, big guns build, explosive build. Explosive build is actually really good on so you don't blow yourself up by accident, or at least as much. And just any other build in between, you're going to take damage at some point. It's almost impossible to not take damage throughout these type of games from something, whether it be intentional, unintentional, or self-inflicted. So just having more damage resist is going to be really good for this. And then coming in at number 4, we have the upgrade to Toughness, which is called CYBORG in Fallout 3. This one you have to be level 14 at least to get, and this one requires 60 science and 60 medicine. What CYBORG does is give you Toughness, because it gives you 10% more damage resist, which is already really good, but it also gives you 10% poison resist, which kind of is nice. It's basically just for rad scorpions and albino rad scorpions, and that's about it, so that's okay. 10% radiation resist, which is also kind of a nice little bonus, and it gives you plus 10 to your energy weapons, which is really good if you're running an energy weapons build because it's 10 free skill points on top of already really good stats. So this one is just a straight upgrade and probably one of the best perks in Fallout 3 just overall for any build. Even if you don't plan on using energy weapons whatsoever, it doesn't really matter because you don't need to invest into energy weapons in order to get this. There's a good chance you're going to be investing into science and medicine at some point, since science lets you hack into places, which is always going to be useful, and medicine is just going to make it so you don't die as much, which can be very useful on any sort of build. And then even if you're just going with the 10 extra damage resist, still a very nice bonus like Toughness gave. Does have a little bit more requirements to Toughness, does require you to be a little bit higher leveled, but totally worth it on any sort of build. Coming in at number 3, we have Chemist. Chemist is another fantastic ability that also requires you to be level 14 and requires you to have 60 medicine. Now, what Chemist does is very simple. It gives you 100% increased duration to any sort of chemical effects. This can be really good with certain chemical effects, mostly with any of the chems that will give you an inherent advantage during combat. So this would be things like Med-X, Jet, Psycho, Buff Out, those type of things. Although it also gives you technically more of a bonus or a longer bonus with any sort of alcohol, and also any of the other useful drugs for whatever situation, like Mentats, which could be useful for like lockpicking or hacking into places. So it's very good there. Generally, the chem build is actually quite strong on any sort of build that you want to throw it on. So throwing Chemist onto any sort of build, whether it be melee, unarmed, explosives, whatever, is just going to be a benefit to you in some way. Chemist isn't as strong in Fallout 3 as it is in like New Vegas, where in New Vegas it's completely crazy because it affects like the Turbo, it affects the Implant GRX, which is already probably the strongest perk in the game, let alone if you throw Chemist on it to make it even stronger. It doesn't affect that many things in Fallout 3, but it's still a very strong skill, and you're probably going to be using these chems assuming that you have them, and you're probably going to be using them in the most dangerous situations when you're fighting really scary things. So having even better effects or longer lasting effects is nothing but a bonus to you. Coming in at number 2, we have Better Crits. Better Crits is a level 16 perk that you need 6 perception and 6 luck to get. You can take this once, and what Better Crits does is give you 50% more crit damage. That's all it does, which is very strong. This counts for any sort of crits, whether it be regular crits that you score on enemies just based on your luck percentage chance and the weapon's crit modifier, as well as sneak crits, which are usually guaranteed on most weapons. I say usually because there are some weapons that do 0 crit damage, so getting 50% more damage of 0 is still going to be 0. But this perk is pretty crazy, especially with how crits kind of work in Fallout, mostly with shotguns. in Fallout 3 because every single pellet on a shotgun can crit. So getting 15% more damage on all of them is pretty crazy, especially when one of them crits, all of them crit. So if you fire out, I think it's like 9 pellets, 8 or 9 pellets per shotgun blast, and you hit crits that are usually equal to the base damage, assuming you hit all of the pellets, and then you add another 50% more damage on top of that, you usually end up one-shotting a lot of enemies, if not almost all enemies. If you have a sneak crit build with like the double-barrel shotgun, the full-sized one that you get in Point Lookout, you can actually one-shot, I think, almost anything in the game. Or maybe you can one-shot anything, because you can one-shot Super Mutant Behemoths with that. You don't necessarily need to build like a full shotgun build in order to get real value out of this. Sniper builds love this, melee builds love this. About the only thing that doesn't, again, is kind of like explosives. And even then, they would probably be okay with this, because there's a lot of perk slots in Fallout 3, and even if you're doing a little bit more damage, it's still a slight bonus. And then for our number 1 pick, we have Grim Reaper's Sprint. Grim Reaper's Sprint has always been pretty busted in Fallout 3. Ever since the game came out, I remember this thing being insanely strong when I first played the game. It did get toned down in like New Vegas, and it's not nearly as good, as well as the VAT system got toned down quite a bit from Fallout 3 to New Vegas, mostly just that they gave you better options to fight with than the VAT system. For Grim Reaper Sprint, you do have to be level 20 in order to get this, and what this does is whenever you kill a target inside of VATs, no matter what target that is, you get all of your action points back immediately. So if you chain a combo together to just keep killing stuff, you can just keep killing stuff and keep chaining combos until everybody's dead, or until you're down to a 1v1 situation where you're probably fighting something that's pretty tanky at that point, something like a Super Mutant Overlord, and everything else is just dead all around you because you can just keep resetting this. And with your accuracy not being the best in Fallout 3 because of the wonky controls and there's no ADS in it, VATS makes it way, way easier for you to actually just lock onto somebody and just keep firing at them. If you want to combine this with the other VATS perks like Commando, Gunslinger, Sniper, it can be really strong to where you can pick off enemies from way further away than they can reasonably hurt you, kill them, and then continue to kill off all of their friends off in the distance. Grim Reaper's Sprint is pretty strong, and you can abuse it very, very well in Fallout 3. And this would be my top 10 best perks in Fallout 3. There still are a lot of other good perks other than this, though. Demo Expert was one that I was thinking of throwing on here because it's really, really strong on an explosives build and can be very fun, but didn't quite make the list for one reason or another. I might do another 10 strong perks in Fallout 3 if you would like to see that. Tell me down in the comments below. I'd be up for doing that. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye!